Hello, Homestead. This is Greg Giglio, principal of Homestead High School, coming to you with a recorded message that I wanted to go through and answer some of the questions and concerns that had come up in a response to a survey that I had sent you last week. This was the Rosebud Thorn Survey. So I wanted to go through that and give you some more information. So let me quickly go and share my screen here and go through our PowerPoint presentation that we'll go through some of the responses you guys had. So again, this is for the week of April 27th. Again, wishing that everybody is doing well. There are about 5 weeks left of school, but only 4 weeks left of school for seniors. So it is coming down to the end of the year. So please make sure you're turning in your assignments and attending those classes. There will not be a special schedule for finals for either seniors or for 9th through 11th graders. Instruction is going to continue up to that very last day. And while there might be some culminating academic activities, it's going to look a lot different than what the traditional finals has been in the past. And those of you who are senior parents, there will be more information coming home about graduation, senior awards, and senior checkouts. And I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit down the line. The first part of the survey asked for any roses that were out there, things with people who deserve shout outs or things that are going well. And they're happy to say that there were a lot of roses that were sent our way. So several of you mentioned that you're very thankful for the work that all of our staff members have been doing, whether it's the hours they're putting in to creating the lessons, to checking in with their kids, to remaining positive, all those things. A couple people mentioned specifically Mrs. Heaney, who is a math teacher, and Mrs. Stanwood, who is a French teacher. So a big shout out to those two. There were a couple of people who also mentioned that they're really proud of our students for the work and dedication that they're showing through this difficult time. And I would agree with that as well. There was a specific shout out to our cafeteria staff for providing meals every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and for doing so with a lot of joy and fun in their hearts. And so they've been serving about 500 kids on those days and making about 2,000 meals, because every kid who comes in gets a breakfast and a lunch for that day and a breakfast and a lunch for the next day. So they're providing 4 meals at once. So they're doing a lot of great work. There was also a shout out and a rose for Maya Bernicki, who was our PTSA president, who has been doing a lot of communication with parents, answering questions and getting people to the right resources. So thank you, Maya, for looking out for our community. And then a lot of people were thankful for the amount of communication coming home when there were decisions being made or things coming up. They were thankful that they were getting this, and hopefully this video does the same for you as well. In regards to the buds and thorns, we had some. This is not just a blank screen, but they kind of blended a little bit together. So I'm going to throw a bunch of those in together. I'm going to try and answer lots of these at once. I'm going to kind of jump right into the credit, no credit question. So there was a lot of questions about why credit, no credit, and what does it mean, and why you're going this direction, that kind of thing. And so really, the only thing I wanted to boil it down to, you can read the individual bullet points there, is that this is not the type of situation that any of us thought we would be in. And it was, we were having to plan and do things as it was happening. Normally, we have months to prepare lessons and assessments and in the face-to-face learning, but in this case, we were switching it as we were going. And so that has created some difficulties, from the varied learning environments to just the ways in which teachers are able to teach and kids are able to do the work. And so, we wanted to come up with an emergency strategy for this emergency situation. And that was the credit, no credit. The old grading system just didn't make any sense because we weren't able to use some of the tools that we've used in the past. We have also been talking with all kinds of experts, including colleges up and down the states and through the US. And in the end, the credit, no credit to us seemed to be the most honest and most fair way to assess the work that's being done. And so, some of the questions, though, that you had specifically was, doesn't a credit, no credit system disadvantage students? If someone has a letter grade, they get to calculate that into their GPA, or they get a bump because of the honors or AP courses they might be taking. But in the end, when colleges are going to sit down and take a look at your student, they are going to try and compare students who are similar or like. So they're going to look at people who have gone through the similar situation in terms of credit. They're going to look at credit, no credit students. They're going to look at students who had grades. So in the end, it's really not going to disadvantage them in the way that you're thinking, because they're not comparing apples to oranges, if that makes sense. Someone asked, is this even legal that you make the change without asking students? And there is no law out there that says we have to get the approval of students or parents. Obviously, we want to get their opinions, and we did get opinions. We didn't go out to every single student and every single parent, but we definitely polled some small groups of people, including staff, students, parents, community members. But in the end, the Ed Code does say, the California Ed Code does say that teachers have the sole discretion. So in a situation like this, which is an emergency, we are allowed to go in and change the situation as it's going along. So yes, it is legal. Some people are saying, well, if we go to credit, no credit, does that mean we lose all the work in progress that we have from before? No, you don't. The grade changes, yes, from a passing grade to a credit, but the marks that you're getting right now are a continuation of those grades. And I'm going to talk a little bit about progress reports here in a minute, which will tell you a little bit more about that. But it isn't just a brand new cutoff and get rid of everything from before. There is a continuation of the learning. So we are continuing the points and the credits that you've earned from that. Folks also say, well, won't this demotivate students? Aren't students only working for a grade? And while grades are a huge motivator for most of our students, it isn't the only thing, right? The most important part of this is that in order to move forward and graduate, you need to earn credits that will count towards graduation. And so you will still be able to earn 5 units of credit for units in a credit, no credit situation. So really, if a student says, oh, I'm not getting a grade, I'm just going to stop working, well, then they're going to lose the opportunity to move towards graduation. And I don't think students in the end are going to really do that. A big piece of data that I would just point out is that we have a 95% attendance rate over the 4 weeks of remote learning, which is really, really good. It's better than most of the districts out there. Normally we're about 97%. So we've only lost a couple of people here in the transition on a daily basis, that is. But that just shows us that kids are checking in. They are still doing their work, turning in work and moving forward. So that's a really great number. So I don't believe that this is going to demotivate our students. There was some questions and there was a lot of debate if you watched the board meeting the other night about can't we have an option to pick a letter grade versus the credit, no credit? This is an option that we did look at, and this is an option that some of the districts around, a couple of districts in our area did choose. In colleges, we'll accept either one of these. They'll say, yeah, if you pick a letter grade, we'll look at it. If you pick the credit, no credit, we'll look at it. But when you start to look at some of those grades, they're not really calculating grades like they normally would. And sometimes when the districts have chosen to go to a letter grade, they have these little things at the bottom saying your student's not going to earn lower than what they had at the 6-week progress report. And so in regards, if I had an A at the 6-week progress report and I won't earn lower, that means I don't have to attend that class or I don't have to participate even. So that didn't sound very good to us. And again, so it didn't sound like teachers in those districts were grading. They were just not changing or not even bringing in other factors to consider changing, and not really looking at student learning or student participation. And in our system, students must have consistent attendance and consistent submission of work to remain in credit status. That's why we're seeing the 95% attendance rate. That's why we're seeing kids continuing to move forward. And they are getting those essentials that they need to be prepared to move onward. So again, that was a big reason why we did not go with this choice of things. As I mentioned, progress reports are going to be a sort of different factor this year. Teachers right now are in the process of creating the credit, no credit 12-week progress report mark. Typically we do progress reports every 6 weeks. So it's 6, 12, and then final grade at 18. So right now we're ready to do the 12-week mark. It'll show up as a credit, no credit. As soon as they're done with that, they're going to go back and look at the work that every student did from the beginning of the semester till we closed on March 13th. They are then going to give a letter grade for that progress. And it'll go in as a progress report. It's not a final grade. It cannot be used in the calculation of GPA, but it'll be something that you can use to tell the story of your learning when you apply for colleges or summer programs. You can say, okay, yeah, it says I earned credit, but before that I was earning an A, or I had raised my grade up from a C to a B, right? So it tells a story, and you'll be able to use that information if you want on your applications. There were some questions about teacher contact, like some teachers are Zooming and other teachers are not, and why is that going, and what is the expectation? And one of the things we did is, as a district, is we decided to allow teachers to have choice in the platform, using the platforms that best fit their class and their students. So in some cases, that meant people wanted to use Zoom or Google Hangouts or that kind of thing. In other cases, they're like, I want to use something different, or I'm doing something different, so I'm going to use a different platform to connect with my students. Um, that created a little bit of confusion because some people are like, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to be Zooming or emailing or looking at my Remind app, but I think people have gotten used to whatever systems the teachers are using at this point, now that we're 4 weeks in. But the one constant, or the couple of constants throughout all of this, is that teachers have to be available during class periods and during office hours. So that being available could be that they're sitting next to their computer waiting for emails. It could be that they're on a Zoom. It could be that they're waiting for texts. It could be they're on Google Classroom. It just depends, whatever, like I said, works best, but they should be available during those times. One of the questions that this brought up is like, is a teacher using asynchronous learning or synchronous learning, which means our kids, that they give the kids the work and they're sort of working at their own speed and they're checking in when they can. That would be the asynchronous learning. Or are they trying to get everyone to be working together and learning together at the same time? Both are perfectly good strategies. And again, we left that up to the teachers to make the decision what was best for their class. And that, again, we were telling teachers, you should plan for about 90 to 120 minutes of work per week per class. Again, if you're on Zoom for 90 minutes, that means there's going to be about 30 more minutes worth of work to do. This is always a hard one to judge because some kids work faster than other kids, or some kids work slower than other kids. And so what might take one kid 90 minutes takes another kid 45, takes another kid 3 hours. So it's a little hard to judge that, but that's sort of what the teachers are planning for. People say, well, why wouldn't you want to be on Zoom? Why wouldn't a teacher do that? It's such a great platform and you get to see kids and kids get to see you. Why wouldn't you do that? Well, there are some reasons, such as teacher might not need to lecture that particular period or even at all right now. We have some AP courses that are done with their curriculum and they're just preparing kids for taking the test. So they don't need to get on and lecture to them or at them. They need to give them practices and feedback and that kind of thing. If you have been on a Zoom where there's a lot of people, it is very hard to monitor all the people that are on there. When you start to get over 5 or 10 individuals on a Zoom or on a Hangout, and when you have 35 in the platform, it's really hard to check in and it's really hard to monitor what they're doing or if they're even checked in. So sometimes just being on Zoom doesn't mean it's a great strategy. Some of our teachers have been having some internet access problems, just like all of us. You get everybody online at once and there's some peak hours and people get booted off. So they don't have it. There has been a lot of conversation for teachers about how to improve that and how to do that. So, I know that they're working to make sure their access is good, but just like everybody else, they don't have control over, when they get kicked off. Some of our teachers are dealing with small children or roommates or noise or any of those kinds of things, and might not be the best environment for them to be able to try and teach. Or, again, if you have a small child and you try to be on a Zoom, it's not easy to give your full attention to the students when you're trying to help your kid who's hungry or your dog that's barking at the dog next door. And then some people maybe don't have as much tech skills as another person. But again, we do have some training, so that's not, we're not leaving them on their own for that. But those are some reasons why they may not be there. So don't assume that they just don't want to teach or that they're not interested in teaching, but there may be some legitimate reasons as to why they're not there. Some other people had questions about, is once a week for meeting for class, is that enough class time? And they started bringing up some of the other models that are out there. So again, Saratoga High School has a system where they're meeting twice a week. But if you look at their bell schedule, they're actually meeting for 50 minutes twice a week. We meet for once a week, 90 minutes. So there's a 10-minute difference there. But what both Saratoga and us have is we don't necessarily have a requirement that they're on there for the entire 50 minutes or 90 minutes at a time. It could be that you come in, you check in, then they send them off on their way and they're doing their own work. And whether they're doing it exactly during that time or at another time, that's kind of up to the student and their schedule. But there is no requirement that either one of the sites of the programs have that we're doing, teaching the entire time. It's giving the kids work, it's checking in, it's making sure they're moving forward. And so, knowing that just because there's two different systems doesn't mean one is better than the other. Saratoga has traditionally been a regular schedule, 50-minute types of classes. Ours has been a block schedule, so that's what made more sense to us. And then, in the end, there is a limitation to the amount of time teachers and students can focus and perform well on a Zoom. All of us are getting Zoom fatigue at one point or another. And so just being on there for the full 90 minutes doesn't ensure that a student is engaged in learning. Again, there were some questions about senior celebration, so I can tell you that we have made the decision to move to a virtual awards ceremony night for senior awards, and as well as for graduation. You're starting to get some emails regarding some of those things, and the question is, well, why wouldn't we just delay graduation so that we could do it in person, because it's much better and people can see each other? And I don't disagree with you there, but we're just concerned about the restrictions, and not knowing when they're going to be lifted or if they're going to be lifted. And if the longer we wait, the more likely students are going to be moving away, or staff won't even be available for them. So we wanted to be able to do some events that we could guarantee. We will look for some other opportunities, though, to celebrate seniors, and down the line where there could be some in-person events, whether it's a reunion or a homecoming or something. We will look for those opportunities. But right now we're focusing on virtual graduation, so we can at least have an event that celebrates everybody and sort of puts a period on this year. There was one specific question, and I put it in here because it was one specific question. It was actually non-specific question. She said, long delays in teacher response time is not appropriate. And I would agree with you there too, but they didn't define how long the delay was. But our policy is that teachers respond back within 24 to 48 hours during the week. I know that things are very immediate these days, but if you're going to email on a Friday evening, you may not get a response till Monday morning or Monday afternoon. So, again, just realize that there are lots of emails that come in, and we're trying to get to them everyone. But if you haven't heard back from a teacher in 24 to 48 hours, please try them again. Just make sure the email didn't get lost in the crack somewhere. Or if you're not getting any responses, then please email an administrator, and we'll be happy to try and check in with that teacher and see what the problem might be. One of the big questions we don't have a lot of good answers for yet either is, what's the next year going to look like? How are we going to start school next year? And so if you listen to the experts that are out there, there are a couple of possibilities for the start of next year. We could be starting normal, no restrictions, everything's great, the virus is gone. That doesn't seem totally likely, but if that happens, that's an easy one to deal with. We just start school like we always do. You may have heard the governor either say we might start early in order to catch up on some of the learning, or we might even have a delayed start, say after September or so, so that we can kind of start school without any restrictions. There's also been the discussion of, if we do start school and there are restrictions, do we have to have a kind of a hybrid of remote learning and face-to-face learning, and have some staggered schedules? Or are we going to be in a place where things are worse or the same, and we have to stick with 100% remote learning? So those are some of the scenarios, and those are the things that we are starting to plan for. We don't know, we're not the ones who make the decisions on when we start, but once we get that information, we will definitely be moving forward. A couple of things that we know we need to be working on is, again, letter grades will be returning in the fall. The credit, no credit was a 1 semester emergency strategy, but we have the luxury now of having gone through some remote learning. We'll have the summer to plan for this, so we will be able to figure out a very valid way of assigning letter grades. And one of those ways is determining some new or different alternative assessment strategies. Maybe the old 50 question quiz or test doesn't work as well anymore. So we might need to try and figure out some other alternatives. So we're already starting to investigate some of those strategies, and we might be implementing those for the fall. Our course select teams are also already discussing how to support students at the next level. They are talking about, what did we teach face-to-face? What did we teach during remote learning? And what are some of the things that we either didn't get to teach fully or had to put aside during this time? And so those teachers that will be taking the students next year will be picking up some of those areas and be working with them. So that is something that they're already starting to look at and work at as well. In the end, I think the key thing to remember is that we all are on the same page, and we all want the same thing for our students. We want them to be successful. That's why we become teachers. It's what you hope for as a parent. And so, what we want is we know that all of us are here to academically and emotionally support our students, even after all this is done. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with over the next couple of years, and we're prepared to do that. We know that we need to train our teachers and our students regarding strategies for application, how to write letters of rec that tell the story of this time, how students can best tell their story about what had happened to them during this time. That's the kind of thing that our colleges want to see, or other places want to see. We definitely miss our students, and we look forward to being able to get back to normal at some point. And I know you look forward to getting back to normal, and so, but know that we definitely miss our kids. or your kids. So, but they're all our kids, right? And we want you, your kids, and our staff to be healthy. I mean, I think that goes without saying. And so, knowing that we're all working together, we may not exactly agree on all the strategies and the ways we do it, but know that our main goal when we make decisions, those are the kinds of things that we're thinking about. We want our kids to be successful. Hopefully this format was working well for you. If you have more roses, buds, and thorns, please use the link that was with this video so you can actually add more in, and I'll try and answer them. I'm either doing some public answers like this, or I'm doing some in private. So just let me know which way you want to do. Otherwise, at any other time, you're always welcome to email me or any other staff directly. We are either here on site working, or we are working remotely. But no matter what, we are here for you. And we are happy to answer your questions and take care of issues and problems. And we're trying to make this end of year as smooth as possible for everybody. So again, I thank you for all the great work that you guys have been doing, all the great support. I encourage you to stay safe, and hopefully we see you sooner than not. Okay, take care and be well, everybody.